Guests and callers are not necessarily those of this station. The references to legal matters are based on actual cases filed in federal and state courts and are matters of public record. Every legal about how to put the law on your side. If you want to call in, you can reach us at 888-565-1470 or write us on Facebook at The Verdict. Now, let's get down to justice. Here comes The Verdict with your hosts, Jay Farrow and Janine Davis.
Good afternoon and welcome to The Verdict. I'm your host, Jay Farrow.
And I'm your co-host, Janine Davis. Welcome back to The Verdict.
Welcome back to The Verdict. This is our second show. And this is a show that's going to take you inside the law, behind the scenes of some of the most exciting cases in South Florida. We're going to actually go and dive into these cases, look into the not just the claims, but the parties and really what's underneath of what's going on in the justice system, but in these cases in particular. And because this is our second show, we're going to be experimenting a little bit and trying a couple of different things. And
we'd love to get any feedback that you guys have for us.
Because the concept of the show truly is to make this like ESPN plus the law plus unsolved mysteries. And the cases that we're bringing to you are action-packed cases. This is some good stuff.
Yeah, some good stuff.
The cases that we're bringing you today have the tinge of what's called civil racketeering, which is cases that involve what I call organized crime actually in the civil arena. So it's not exactly...
Say a little bit more about that, Jay, because people, again, we discussed this the last time, people associate civil racketeering with the mob.
Right.
We're not talking about that, though, but we have lay people or people in business behaving like mobsters. So let's speak a little bit more into that because that's really fascinating stuff.
And this is what the show is about as well, is making the law accessible to you in a way that you can understand.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You guys, if you're wondering why I'm here for you.
Right. So as we're going through, and if I say anything that you're like, what? Or, think that would need some explaining.
I will, absolutely.
We want this show to provide not just a voice for these cases, but a voice for you, the people that are going through it on the ground, people that have been ripped off by corporate bullies, are having a difficult time finding your voice, or asking, is the legal system for me? Is there, should I even go to a lawyer? Should I bother myself of resolving a claim?
Right.
And we want you to have this platform to understand what the law is and understand that the law is accessible to you. Understand that there are lawyers out there that will take your cases on not the hourly, not the billable hour. We're also using this platform to show how lawyers can use different methods of charging their clients in a more effective way, in a more urgent way, and to get the lawyers from being addicted to the billable hour, which I know and I've already from the first show, I'm starting to get kickback. Yeah. And they're like, what are you talking about? The lawyers bill by the hour, and that's how they get paid. No. That's
not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
That's what we're saying, not necessarily.
So there's a lot of different facets to the show. We're going to go into claims. We're going to go into cases. We're going to go and show you how the legal system can work for you.
Absolutely. And we're also here to show you that people have legal problems, but legal problems are extension of human problems. Right? Because, and this is where I think we want to be really of service to people. Because at the end of the day, the law is a tool, just like any other kind of tool in order to resolve disputes between human beings. But you don't have a legal problem, you have a human problem. Somewhere along the line, people made decisions together that did not support them. Or people were untrue to each other, or something happened. And these, the truth of the matter, become legal problems, and we like to call them legal problems, and we distance ourselves.
But they're people problems.
But they're really people problems. And that's one of the things that we really are not shy about talking about.
Underneath all the claims and everything that's written about in the legal system, every time that I file a lawsuit, ultimately it does come down to people.
Absolutely.
It's the parties, it's the lawyers.
We're going to get into that.
It's the judges. We're all people. We're all attempting to resolve a conflict, all attempting to resolve a problem and find a solution.
Right. And people have interpretations of the law. The law is not always so black and white, which we see sometimes.
The law is never black and white.
Right. Exactly. And so it comes down to a lot of interpretation. So you've got to give a lot of leeway to human beings interpreting the law. So.
And if we're going to take this segment a little bit deeper into what we're all about and what we're doing here, okay? Yeah. This show today is just Janine and I. We're going to be going through again some of the cases that that my law firm happens to be involved with right
Correct.
now.
Yep.
Showing you how we have implemented a revolutionary type of practice of law, which attempts to resolve claims in 3 to 5 months, in and out with life.
Yep.
It's unheard of. Now, is this making me like? Well, my clients love me, but this is not making me a fan with opposing counsel. It's not making me a fan with the other side.
Right. There's a lot of resistance on the other side.
My job is not to make friends here, and believe it or not, no matter how heavy-handed, quote-unquote heavy-handed that I am, and I am, okay, it's actually a service to the other side.
Absolutely.
Because what I'm looking at it is that I am truly an interruption to the practice of law, and also with resolving these particular cases. And I'd love to enroll other lawyers to take a look at their cases in the same way that I am.
Right.
And attempt to think about urgency, okay, and saving the two things that are most important to people: time and money, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, without a doubt.
And time
This
is
the
more
biggest.
important than money.
Right. Again, we mentioned this on the last show. Time is the one thing that you cannot buy, nor can you ever get back. Once it's gone, it's truly gone. You could. How many times do we hear of people making $1 million, losing $1 million, making $2 million?
Right.
It happens. Money is something that is a renewable resource.
Right.
Time is not exactly the same thing. So we take that really seriously. I know you do.
Right.
And so, and I think eventually, again, and we touched on this on the inaugural show. The show really is about education.
Right.
When sharing experiences with the public and also with other attorneys, because at the end of the day, Jay, you have an enormous peer group. They are talented, vital, amazing human beings, and they're human beings. So just like some of them are up and open for a good, passionate resolution, some of them want to do old school litigation, which is digging their heels in and taking forever.
Old school litigation.
So, but it takes all kinds, right? So we're speaking to everybody.
Old school litigation, that's code word to me.
Yeah.
That's code word to me. Like, someone's addicted to the billable hour. That's what I think.
Right, because people don't know it's different to function a different way. People are afraid. And again, we touched on this the last time, and I think it's worth mentioning again. What drives the billable hour is the scarcity mentality. Thinking that you have to drag out that one case or those cases that you have on hand forever and never and never in order to be able
We
to.
say drag out. I'm talking about the distinction of 3 to 5 months. When you say drag out, that's only 3 to 5 years.
Oh, yes.
I've been involved in some cases that have now gone to trial in 7 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
For some cases that before they even see a trial. Okay.
Right.
And because there are people involved, and because the system, I feel, is just broken with delay. That's really what it is.
Right.
And delay works for some people.
Right.
And it usually works for the people that have a ton of money.
Sure.
Okay? And
Sure.
that's how people lose their voice, is through delay.
Right.
There is a saying, justice delayed is justice denied. I don't know if you ever heard that, but
that's a good one.
This is the fundamental difference between the two justice systems that exist. Is the people that can afford justice can afford the 5 to 7 year trial. They don't even care. But the people that cannot afford it.
Well, I don't know. I know some wealthy people who do not want to burn their money over 5 to 7 years. So I think that this new way of thinking about pushing that's the thing.
They don't know.
That's the thing. But this is what I was trying to get into with you, and we were going to touch again about the scarcity mentality that drives the billable hour, which, at one point you mentioned historically, it made sense because it took hours and days and sometimes months to research archives and go through paper. Exactly. Today, with all of the modernity and conveniences and ability to search documents, even documents that are thousands of pages long, you can word search.
Yeah, I could do a word search.
You can word search on different things. It's amazing. It still takes hours. It's still laborious. It's still a highly developed skill that merits.
But it doesn't take the same amount of time.
Correct, 100% it doesn't. So, but what drives all of that today is scarcity. So, what people don't realize, and a lot of business owners and attorneys,
what is scarcity?
Is that so scarcity is the mentality of not enough. There's not enough money. There's not enough time. There's not enough anything. So I've got to squeeze everything I can out of this one thing.
So I have this one case, right? And so I'm just gonna. This is my. They call them. Bread and butter. This is a bread and butter client. It's a bread and butter case. I'm going to milk this thing. Point 1, point 2. When I say point 1 and point 2,
this is the
way the billable hour works. It's based on tenths of an hour. It's based on 10/10ths of an hour. So every time, do you know this? Every time someone would call me,
yes,
and I pick up the phone, technically that first 6 minutes is gone, whether that phone call lasts 30 seconds or if it lasts a minute. That's it.
Traditionally, a client would be billed.
Traditionally, a client would be billed. Can you believe
For
that?
at least the 6 minutes, yeah.
And when
It's insanity. That's why a lot of people don't call their lawyers.
$400 an hour. You know what that is? It's a $40 30-second interaction. And then a lawyer prepares an email to their associate attorney about the 30-second phone call they just had. So guess what happens? The associate attorney now reads the email, and it's receipt and review of email. So then that associate billing out of $250 an hour just made a $25 thing for receipt and review of an email sent to them by their partner, and this goes on.
And it goes on and on. So again, in certain instances, that could work for certain things.
Right.
However, on a day-to-day basis, it is based on scarcity of not enough. What people don't realize is if they gave the service with urgency and purpose and intention, they would have many more clients,
I'm gonna say something that's gonna blow
and
your mind.
probably make a lot more money.
I'm going to say something that's going to blow your mind.
I can't wait. Do it.
Okay?
Do
How
it.
about have this one? How about having the upfront conversation with your client with, did you do it? How about that? Did you do it? Now, I practice in the area of civil racketeering.
What are you
What
on
I'm
about?
saying is this. I have this initial consultation with my client. And he comes in and he's got his claim against him for fraud, civil racketeering, which means, that him or her have worked together with others to rip somebody else off, and in the midst of doing so, they've used the telephone wires, email, phone calls, illegal advertisements. Okay, how about having a conversation right up front saying to your client, hey, did you do it? Because let's save you a lot of time and a lot of money, all right? Because you can sit there for 5 to 7 years, okay, with the client that did it and has got the money to get away with it. Because I think it's a win for anybody who's done it, who's guilty of what's going on here. I think it's a win for them to be able to hold their money for another 5 to 7 years. But is it? Because the thing is that you just said, those people, those wealthy people, like instead of a lawyer having a conversation saying, hey, did you do it? Well, let me tell you what. If you did, let me mitigate your losses.
100%.
Let me tell you something. I can sit here right now when a client comes into my office, and I could basically, on paper, within maybe 3 to 4 hours, map out what they'd be accountable for, okay, what their risks are going forward, how much-ish the amount of attorney's fees would be for prosecuting a case, defending a case for a number of years, their chances of win-loss, and say, hey, you did it. So, hey, you could pay this amount now,
right?
Or I could tell you how smart I am about the law. And that's the problem.
It's getting that is the problem.
That's the problem, because you know what? We go to law school.
Yeah.
And I acknowledge, I mean, it is challenging. I mean, there's a lot.
Absolutely.
There's a lot.
There's nothing easy about that.
Are you go to law school? Yeah, you're smart and things like that. But you're too smart for your own good, my grandfather used to say to me. You know?
Yeah.
You're too smart for your own good. My grandmother used to say to me. I was lucky enough to know all my grandparents. At one iteration or another, they've all told me the same thing. You're too smart for your own good. I've heard it all my life. And that's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you how beautifully I could defend your case. And if this is in the criminal arena, I mean, maybe this is the distinction that we're talking about civil cases.
Yeah, we're talking about civil cases.
I'm talking about like the whole "did you do it" conversation. And I'm gonna let's keep this going, okay? Because I'm gonna get to the "did you do it," and I'm gonna give you an example as we get back from the break. All right?
Yeah,
I'm gonna give you an example about one of the cases.
Because this could be you. We don't know who's listening. It could be you or someone you know.
Of one of the cases. I'm gonna go through it. And I'm gonna show you by example.
Please do.
How insane this process, the whole process really is. We'll be right back.
Excellent.
Right after these messages.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Farrell Law Firm, standing up to corporate bullies, using innovative, aggressive, and effective strategies to resolve disputes effectively and Farrell Law Firm, standing up to corporate bullies, using innovative, aggressive, and effective strategies to resolve disputes effectively and timely. Contact us at 954-252-9818, online at farrelllawfirm.com, and on Facebook at Farrell Law Firm. We look forward to being of service to you. You have been watching The Verdict with Jay Farrell and Janine Davis. If you want to call into the show, you can reach us at 888-565-1470 or write us live on Facebook at The Verdict. Now, back to The Verdict.
Thank you so much for joining us again. We are back with you. We had a little bit longer of a commercial. We hope you enjoyed the composition, the musical composition, and want to get right back into it, Jay. We were talking about that. Did you do it? Conversation with the clients.
Did you do a conversation?
So take us a little bit about that. Yeah.
And they explain that they're being sued for whatever it is, breach of contract, fraud inducement, and I have this heart to heart with them. Did you do it? Because I need to know what I'm working with, and I need to know, number one, what could this potentially cost my client? Okay. Mm-hmm. And I give them, I will sit there with them and say, look, my recommendation to you always is, how do we get through this to get you in and out on life as quickly as possible? Right. Did you do a conversation?
That's your approach, though, for defense or plaintiff. Right. And plaintiff is the person who is doing the suing. The defendant is the person being sued. Right. So, but that's really your approach with all litigation.
And it's not like, well, we'll have this. I'll give them a list of defenses, but I'm not going to say that that's a valuable tool on a long approach as far as getting the case. See, but it is. Here's the thing: if the client's got money, okay, if the client's got money. And it's going to be one of those cases where it's like, all right, I did it, and I'm not. I don't have any of these cases, by the way. Actually, I don't have any of those cases. But I've had these conversations in the context of foreclosure defense. But I'm saying as far as what would support people. Okay, I'll give you an example. I prosecute civil racketeering against unlicensed contractors. For example, okay.
Yes. Now, this is a big racket.
And especially down in Miami, it's
it's very commonplace.
Where everybody's using someone else's contractor license, and then down here with all of the codes and the hurricane codes, everybody's looking to make a little bit of money on not doing what they're supposed to be doing, especially unlicensed contractors down in Miami.
Yes.
So I have this unlicensed contractor case. I had a nice family move down here from Atlanta. And they hired this contractor who claimed at the time to be an unlicensed contractor. We since found out that was a lie, but let's just go with this for a second.
Right.
All right. Now, there's no question that the work wasn't done correctly. Okay? There's no question that I've seen a picture of the house there's like a bucket holding up like a
support beam.
A support beam.
I mean, really outrageous things.
Outrageous things. Now, the guy is like, yeah, I did it, but I'm only going to pay this. Okay? Now, I have now filed a civil racketeering because I saw that this unlicensed contractor has a bunch of corporations, and this is
dancing around with
a bunch of corporations, some of which are owned by some of his family members. And what he does is the money comes in and funnels to this and funnels to that, so whether there's no trace of that. So I work with my team. We work with ex-CIA, ex-FBI, we work with police, and we work with...
So talk to us a little bit about that, Jay. Why would you work with these people? What are they bringing to the table, and why do you mention that?
It's a good question, right? I wasn't really... Okay, so we'll talk about this now, because it fits, I guess. The thing is this. In the beginning of any case, I need to know what the other side had for breakfast.
Why?
Because for the same reason... that the did you do it conversation, I need to show them that not only did you do it, okay, and I have proof of that up front. Okay?
Got it.
I also, because if I'm going to attempt to enroll the other side into a resolution up front, it's very similar to the police. You know, if you're prosecuting civil racketeering, I'm saying that you committed organized crime in order to whip somebody off. I've been for sure that I have all my facts straight, I have the law straight, I've laid out the complaint for them, and I've laid out the demand letter, the initial settlement demand letter.
Right.
Because I'll make this point right now, and we can get back to it too. Because I always give the other side the opportunity to get out.
Yes. This is a huge
and I tell my clients
distinction.
this: you're not gonna get paid, okay, when you think that you're completely owed. Okay, you're sitting in that chair right now. If you're gonna try to resolve this case, you got to make it palatable to the other side.
Yep.
And you got to make it. You got to show them that you know what's what, that you mean business, but at the same time that you understand that this is something that happened. Okay. Because if I ever did anything wrong, I'd like someone to come to me and say, hey, something went wrong here. You know, let's try to handle this before I file the lawsuit. Because the consequences of filing a lawsuit are serious nowadays. Very, very serious. Because once you file a lawsuit, it's in the court system and it's there forever. It's not a matter of public record.
Right.
Okay?
And now with the internet, maybe years and years ago, someone in Jersey didn't know about a lawsuit filed
So I work with these professionals.
But today, everybody knows everybody.
But I work with these
and everything.
professionals. I work with these professionals. And like I say, the people that are ex-FBI, ex-CIA, these guys have quite the career. Public servants, I mean, the way that they approach their job is with complete professionalism. They do their investigations. They provide me with the information that I need and expert reports, which is important as well. Because if I'm going to be presenting this to the court,
using the expert reports? How does that show up?
I can attach them to the complaint.
Okay.
I attach them to my settlement demands. Because, again, up front, I want to show you, hey, I've done my homework. It's all in pre-production. I've already got you. It's checkmate.
Right.
You know, I got you a checkmate. If you don't believe that, you'll figure that out sooner down the line, okay? I'm mean business. I'm coming in. But I'm also accessing a level of compassion because we're dealing with people, okay? And whatever they've done on the other side, I'm sure, and this is what happened mostly, they might not even recognize how bad it was for the other side. I mean, how often does that happen? Like, you don't recognize when you hurt somebody? You know, that how bad you hurt them and how much it actually caused damage to your house. In this case, with an unlicensed contractor. So I'd best be sure that I have all of these pieces in place. And what ends up happening, unfortunately, more often than not, that when presented with the opportunity, I get a no or such a low offer that it's like, okay, because I don't know if they think that I mean business. And I can't figure that piece out just yet. But there are some people that say, you know what? All right. You know, I appreciate what you just did here. I'll tell you what. Here's how I see it. You know, would you accept this? And believe it or not, my client's like, you know what? Because you didn't make me go through 3 to 5 years. There's value to that too.
Oh my
and I'll tell my clients that. I'll tell my clients that you didn't go through 3 to 5 years of hell, of sleepless nights, or getting off work to go to trial. Yeah. I mean, there's value in that, but it's not enough. And I think that it's not the person on the other side that doesn't want to settle. Believe it or not, it's the lawyers.
I'm going to say this, and this is going to be like, I know I'm going to get it for this, but this is I will say this in the show as many times until you know that this starts to land with some people out there. We as attorneys have more agency and ability to enroll our clients in resolution than we like to ever admit.
Right.
We are 100%. In the space of able to convince our clients of one way or the other. Now, is it always going to happen? No. Are there going to be some people that aren't going to get around to it?
There's some people who are going to want to go to the max.
However, if I'm looking at a situation based upon my experience, you know, I am a counselor at law. You know, to explain to somebody, look, you're facing all of this. I'm going to do the math for you, okay?
Yeah.
Because my job is to do the math because you're not necessarily in these positions all the time.
Right.
So here's the math. You know, this is how much they're coming after you for. This is the claims. And civil racketeering, you're able to actually treble your damages, which means it's 3 times the damages.
Right.
So in these unlicensed contractor case.
For people who, let's say the original amount owed to a person was $100,000.
It's 300.
Right. Under civil racketeering, the treble damages are $300,000.
Plus
That's a huge
fees. Plus attorney's fees.
That's a huge difference.
Right. It's a huge difference. And you can imagine the person on the other side would always say, hey, listen, we'll settle for 80, you know?
Yeah.
we'll get there. Okay? Because in every single one of these scenarios, guess what happens?
Please tell us.
In civil racketeering, I used to represent bankruptcy trustees in Chapter 7s in the beginning of my career, and the firm that I was with at the time did some of this work where we had to chase dirty money, chase fraudulent transfers. So when you're chasing fraudulent transfers, it's not just the person that transferred the money.
What is a fraudulent transfer for the
is
public
when
who
someone
is not
attempts
aware?
to hide the ill-gotten gains. When
Okay.
someone attempts to hide the money
so
from a fraud.
this is really the distinction: ill-gotten gains.
Right. This is what I call dirty money. It's ill-gotten gains. You shouldn't have gotten it. I mean, somehow you committed some type of fraud, and now you're basically, I'm able to go and chase the people that received the money. And sometimes they participated in the ongoings of the racketeering enterprise. So in civil racketeering, I'm able to go after 3 times the damages, but here's the other thing. Okay? People involve other people without even knowing it. So all of a sudden, so someone's spouse becomes a defendant.
Yeah, give us an example
Because
of that,
people,
right?
They
so
take
it's the
money
spouse.
and they buy a car for their spouse. You know, this is dirty money. It doesn't make your spouse entitled to that car or that piece of jewelry or whatever it is. She becomes a named defendant in a federal or state lawsuit. That's a big deal. Sometimes it's kids and it's trust funds, but it's like this dirty money. And so what ends up happening in some of these cases is like, okay, here are the people that are potentially involved in your case. And in the unlicensed contractor case that we're talking about,
right?
There's like, I think we started off with like 5 different defendants, let's say. Now we come to find out through a number of other, resources that the person that has all the lawsuits got like 12 other companies with like 12 other defendants, 1,200 people, and then their spouses, and all of a sudden it's like a 50-person thing.
Yeah.
And that's what, if you look at criminal investigations, if you look at what the like federal prosecutors do, and you look at how things end up happening, eventually you get to somebody who's like, wait, I have a bunch of information, but I don't want you to touch me. Please let me out of this.
Right.
And they're the low men on the totem pole. So they'll end up getting out of it. I mean, so this type of work, I mean, basically lends itself to this type of resolution where someone talks, someone's the whistleblower. I mean, and they become saying, "Hey, I want to tell the truth. I want to tell the truth because I don't want my name in the lawsuit. I don't want to go down with this shit." Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
of course.
I'm using this in the realm of civil racketeering and fraud, civil conspiracy, aiding and abetting.
Right.
But I'll tell you this. Okay, in every single legal case, there's leverage. There are ways to show the math to the client. All right? There's ways to show in negligence cases. There's ways to show in breach of contract cases.
Right.
Okay, but I don't see lawyers, as a matter of practice, say first thing out of the box is, let's head towards solution, resolution, and getting you in and out on with life, as opposed to, well, let me tell you what the legal defenses are, and most of the time when I'm serving this out, when I serve out my demand letters, my complaints, I get a real wise lawyer on the other side who does a very, very good job of telling me their version of what the law is. Let me tell you, the law is not black and white. Okay,
right?
It's not black and white. Okay, facts are not black and white either. Okay, however.
What do you mean facts are not black and white?
I'm saying the interpretation of facts are not black and white.
Okay.
However, if I have a former FBI guy telling me, hey, you got some racketeering here, or look at this, or this look at this computer image, and this thing has changed to this, and you can see how someone manipulated this document.
Manipulated data or manipulated invoices or anything like that, right?
Okay, you want to explain to a jury why the law matters compared to what a fact matters. Juries are gonna be like, no, I want to do with the facts. I want to know what the truth is.
Sure, because the jury
so many loopholes in the law. Okay, there's so many different things, so many motions that you could file to get evidence not admitted in court. There's so many different things that you could do on the civil side, and if you're really, really good, you know that's it. But where's the accountability in that? And this show is showing that.
This show is about accountability too.
How about this?
Like,
you might be able to get away with whatever you are, but then the thing is, you know what? What if you were to take a look at the scenario, the solution-based scenario isn't like this paradigm. Tell you what, give me $100,000 retainer, and I'm going to drag this thing on for X amount of time, okay? Mm-hmm. And by the time like a year rolls around, that person's not going to have the stomach for this kind of litigation because they're not a businessman. They are a consumer. They don't have the chops to go 12 rounds with you. So I'll tell you what, we're going to start throwing paper at them and throw paper at them again and throw paper at them again. Okay? So what does a little guy do?
What does a little guy do? What can a little guy do?
Well, usually they run away. And you know what makes it worse? When I do what I do, and for the people that come to my office and have the courage to stand up to the bullies in their life, I send out my demand letter. I send out my complaint. I have my investigations done. And you know what that happens?
Tell me.
Usually,
Tell us.
A large law firm will come in and they'll point their finger at me and say, you know what, Jay, I'm making you Exhibit A. I'm gonna make an example out of you.
Lazy law.
I'm gonna file a motion for sanctions against you for doing X, Y, and Z now.
Right. So this is called chilling.
The chilling effect.
Chilling effect. What does that do?
Okay,
Jay, explain that too.
Okay, there's an epidemic out there in the law. Okay?
And we touched on this a little bit last time.
Especially for consumer protection statutes and especially for stuff like civil racketeering.
Mm-hmm.
There is an epidemic that didn't exist 20, 25 years ago where lawyers sitting in their ivory tower will file motions against smaller lawyers for sanctions looking to hold them personally liable for all the attorney's fees in the case. Mm-hmm. Okay? And in each one of the cases that I've been working with lately, and we'll talk. We're gonna go on a break because we're a little bit.
We're a little over.
I get this. I get attacked. And the thing is that.
As a non-lawyer, I think, why are these people not engaging in the actual law and the merit, or even contemplating the merit of the case? I call it lazy law.
No, you see, if you don't have the facts, you argue the law. You don't have the law, you argue procedure. And if you don't have procedure or the law, then you throw anything against the wall to see if it sticks. And one of the things is to go after the other lawyer and say, I'm going to come after you. And unfortunately,
it's
that works.
Huge threat. It does.
It works because if it didn't, it wouldn't happen.
Right.
But it does work. And on the other side of this break, we're going to talk about one of these cases.
Absolutely. Stay tuned, guys. Who knew the law could be this interesting?
But
it is.
Farrow Law Firm, standing up to corporate bullies, using innovative, aggressive, and effective strategies to resolve disputes effectively and timely. Contact us at 954-252-9818, online at farrowlawfirm.com, and on Facebook at Farrow Law Firm. We look forward to being of service to you. You have been watching The Verdict with Jay Farrow and Janine Davis. If you want to call into the show, you can reach us at 888-565-1470 or write us live on Facebook at The Verdict. Now, back to The Verdict.
Welcome back to The Verdict.
Welcome back, everyone.
Show about the law, taking you inside the law in a way that you've never seen before. Raw and
real and in real time, because we're talking about real cases. We're not talking about something that happened in 1870, y'all. We're talking about real events affecting real people right now.
Now, I mean, I'm the lawyer host on the show, so we're going to talk about a couple of my cases, and then in the next couple of weeks, we're going to have other lawyers on the show talking about their cases, because I want to highlight the cases that don't get the coverage, that should get the coverage, the cases that don't get picked up by CNN, but they affect the little guy.
Right.
These are the true David and Goliath cases that I see in South Florida.
Right.
And I mean, state, federal. And we're going to allow, I'm hoping, not just the lawyer that's filed the case, but maybe at one time to have the other side show up as well. And see what we can do to potentially resolve a case right here on the air, going through and using the tools that we're talking about right here.
Absolutely.
Okay? In other words, doing it right in your face, like, hey, let's get this stuff. I was going to bring
real life mediation, maybe.
Just to have that, have a mediator. Have the sides talk about it and see what it would look like.
Yeah,
I mean, we're going to take the show to a number of different places.
Yeah.
Okay, but this show is talking about the most exciting cases that are out there that CNN hasn't picked up on yet. Maybe they will soon. And I'm going to say that in my practice, 90% of my cases now are involve civil racketeering.
Right.
Civil racketeering is where people work together and conspire to commit fraud. Right. Civil racketeering is more prevalent than you think in business.
Right.
Business civil racketeering is something that
it's systemic.
It's really
fraudulent, scary.
So the claims are civil racketeering. Civil racketeering means that there's an enterprise where more than one person has worked together with another human being in order to rip somebody off and commit fraud.
It's no longer the thing of Al Capone.
Now, when I say civil racketeering in the civil context, in civil litigation, civil racketeering it provides for 3 times the amount of damages, money damages, and let me just say, the case we filed on Friday.
Let's talk a little bit about that, Jay. Please share that with the audience, what that's about.
This case is a David versus Goliath story. It's filed in federal court.
Started with a breach of contract.
It didn't start with the breach of contract.
No. Okay. So please.
This didn't start with breach of contract. This started with civil racketeering right off the bat.
Oh, okay.
So,
actually, you're right. Take us through the tenets of the case.
Okay,
it's public knowledge.
So it's not. It's filed in federal court. It was filed in the Southern District of Florida, and my clients is Don't Look Media versus Fly Victor and Clive Jackson, and a couple other characters that worked together. And this case started back in 2016.
2015.
Well, the actual contract and
right. Pardon me.
So. When you have a number of people on one side, and these people are all in London, by the way, which makes the case that much more interesting. Sure. And what you have is it starts off with a contract, okay? But before the contract's even signed or done, okay, these people are already working together. They're already working together saying, hey, we really want what this guy has. We're going to take this asset and we're going to use it for 3 years or not use it for 3 years, all right? And it's already decided that the asset is a domain. It's a domain for a private jet company. And my client, in the best of faith, allows them to take this domain and use it over the course of time. Now, the deal was that Fly Victor was going to take my client's website, build it out over the course of 3 years, spend money on it, Google pay-per-click ads, and they were going to have a revenue share of this. And within a 3-year period, that just never happened.
Okay.
Right.
So why are you saying that it happened before the breach of contract?
See, the allegations of my complaint, which is what I really want to talk about.
Yeah, please do. Take us through how you even build something like this out.
Okay.
$30 million is a gutsy demand.
Yeah, it's a gutsy
What
demand.
goes into creating something like that?
Well, looking at the contract and looking at what was supposed to happen. All right.
Okay.
All right. Imagine like someone's walking in my office and they're presenting this to me, and I'm looking at the contract and recognizing that this particular internet domain was a very, very, very valuable internet domain. Okay.
Okay.
And it was working with Private Jet here in the United States and JetSmarter, and this was going to be licensed to this Fly Victor, which is an English company.
Okay.
And
what does Fly Victor do? Who are they in this space?
It's like an Uber for private jets.
Okay, so they do they rent out private jets for people?
They make the private jet more accessible, I would say.
Okay, so like I need a ride to, I don't know, San Francisco. I can call them and say, look,
you go online, you can book a charter.
Okay.
Okay.
So I book a one-way with them or a round trip, whatever it is.
More or less looking for a internet, a American footprint for their business. I mean, this is now the largest private jet Uber company in the world. So you can book the charter, and you can then go wherever you want to go.
Right. Right.
Now, so if you got to imagine, it's a jet charter. Each one of these can be little as $3,000 up to $300,000 for the charter, depending on whatever jet that you want to use.
Okay.
Some nice
nice outfits out there. Got it.
We're not there yet. We're gonna get there, right? It's a different world. It truly is a different world.
Sure.
So this make it more accessible as far as convenient to be able to book a private jet charter.
Okay.
Okay. And in the midst of all this, my client executes this agreement, and they start working to but they're lying to him from get go.
What do you mean?
They're not telling him the truth with respect to what they're doing.
What are they lying about?
They're lying about the terms of the contract. When I say lying, they're not being forthcoming with how the deal was supposed to happen from get go. Right.
Okay.
And as things would build and build and build, okay, eventually they just said, you know what? After they made their money.
And leverage the value of the asset.
They're like, hey, we're done with you. That's it.
Okay. So what you're
So-
saying, what you're alleging in the complaint then, or
Right.
what you're alleging
Right.
is that they had this all thought out. They thought, okay, let's get into business. Let's use this person's domain
Right.
for X amount of time. We won't do what we're supposed to do on our end, but we're hijacking the asset for X amount of time.
And not just that, because it gets worse.
Wow, it's worse than that?
It gets worse than that.
Please tell us more.
Because in the same time this is all going on, okay, these three people that are working together
Yeah.
are taking money and out of this company, this Fly Victor company, and paying themselves consulting fees now to dormant corporations in London. And we're not talking about small consulting fees, okay? And this is something that nobody would catch, all right? And we're talking about thousands of potential.
Right. So here's where they're building their like web and the network and all of them agreeing to work together. And
Right.
this is where the racket
Right.
is
And
forming.
this is where you start to see, okay, so you have promises made, okay, just like a regular breach of contract. You have promises made under a contract.
Right.
It doesn't end up happening. But there's money coming in for the contract. Lots of money.
Sure.
And not just money, though. It's also the fact that there was a pointer, which, like in this case, where if anybody were to go to my client's internet domain, it would be pointed to Fly Victor.
Right.
And for that in and of itself has tremendous value for something like
Sure.
this, because this type of business is based on trust. These charters are expensive.
And brand recognition.
And brand recognition.
Right.
So if someone is using this and all of a sudden they're going to Fly Victor, they're starting to build the brand of Fly Victor as opposed to my client. And that's what he gave the license for, was that stuff was going to be built at the same time. So if you're looking at this from the perspective of damages, right? Before this case was filed, my client happens to have had this reviewed by 7 independent industry experts, and saying that, look, if we were to take a look at this asset, this domain name, and if it was been built out properly, it would have been worth X, Y, and Z. Okay, it would have been worth this, that, and after 3 years, if it was done properly, and that just didn't happen. That's one thing. The other thing that ends up happening, and when I say that gets worse, so you have there's money coming in through organic leads, all right,
Okay.
from the United States to this company.
Right.
My client gets paid zero, okay, over the
Right.
like 3 years. So we're
So
talking
he's unpaid.
substantial.
They've taken the asset.
taken the
They've not
asset.
paid him.
And they're getting paid through internet leads. Then
Right.
on top of that, what ends up happening is you have the consulting fees, but Fly Victor, and this is alleged in the complaint, and this is where you talk about the experts coming in here.
Yeah.
So I told you about there's experts that said that if we would have used this website properly, then this thing would have been on fire. Because this piece of landscape of real estate,
Yeah. Cyber real estate.
cyber real estate was extremely, extremely valuable, especially during the years that nothing happened. So the other problem is that Fly Victor was supposed to have certain representations, and this is a critical piece, of information that's provided by United States law on their website. Disclaimers.
Oh, so they were
And
not in
They
compliance?
were
Is
not
that what
in
you're saying?
compliance with the DOT regulations. And so thus,
Oh, my goodness.
technically, while they had the license to use my client's internet domain, there could be an argument that my client wasn't in compliance. But either way, it just it would have otherwise destroyed the brand.
Isn't that like a while they were
I've
while
alleged
they
it
were
as conversion in the complaint, which means
right?
that basically
But isn't it also like a fiduciary? What is
it's a fiduciary obligation to keep it in good stead, and,
Right.
And it just
And to
didn't,
be in
it didn't
compliance.
happen. As a matter of fact, when we actually did this thing and we went to we explained that what was going on, they then switched their website. They tried to fix their own problem.
they
these
tried to
these guys,
fix
they
it.
tried
Got
to fix it,
it.
and so we
Sure.
caught them in that. I put that also into the complaint. But the thing is that my client, we had on our team a Washington D.C. law firm review this. As far as the DOT issue is concerned, and they
Sure.
found that there's been millions of dollars of violations, because it's $38,000. I think it's $38,000 per day of violations.
wow?
And it could be continuing to this day. And not to say that my client is responsible for that. Fly Victor would be responsible for that. But the thing is, it's all about trust. And when you're in this particular industry and you didn't comply with the easy thing, and it's not like it's a disclaimer that they should have
Right.
had,
Right.
and they didn't have it.
Right.
So, you think about this. This is a case where my client happens to have the means to have gotten all this information.
Sure.
But the conversation is not different, okay? Because over in London, these guys figured, hey, we're over here. We're in London. They actually created the contract in such a way that they're arguing that jurisdiction should be over in London. But there's actually a United States Supreme Court case and a litany of cases that say you can't take advantage of these venue provisions or law provisions when you created it in the first place in order to make it more difficult or impossible for the other person to actually have their day in court.
Right.
So when I say this stuff happened in the beginning of the case, or not the beginning of the case, not the lawsuit, I'm talking about back in time,
Right.
back in
So
2015,
the
16,
whole
17,
thing was
18.
rotten to begin
Right.
with.
Because, I don't think that I found any good faith, maybe in the very beginning conversations. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about how everything was done and everybody worked together. And when you see this money coming out, and it's like, well, wait a second. All of a sudden you have this fresh money coming in. No one's accounting for it. It doesn't belong to them. Technically, it would belong to my client. But let's just take this money and let's put this into dormant corporations as consulting fees. This case.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about this case, because they were one of the cases that the people elected not to do.
No, this is the case where, like, I'm just going to say it like this, and I can say it like this. Every single one of my cases, I do the same thing.
Right.
I prepare a demand letter. I prepare a complaint.
Mm-hmm.
I will send it out and attempt to enroll the other side in a pre-suit resolution of the matter.
Right.
We are now in litigation.
Yep.
So
full on.
So we're on
heavy
full
litigation.
on heavy litigation, and now we actually have sent out the summonses to go out to London, and it's got to go through the Hague Convention. It's actually a very interesting issue.
Right, because it's an international affair.
But here's the thing: think about this, and I don't want. Think about how much process needs to happen for someone over here. This is a United States citizen, okay, and it's a company over in London, and they just figured, hey, we're going to take advantage of the Atlantic Ocean, okay, because there is a psychological advantage. But think about how much process it is now for somebody, and the thing is, even if this person has money to be able to do what he's doing, it doesn't change the fundamental conversation of, man, do I even want the embarrassment of this? Or if he has that conversation, or I don't want anybody to have found out about this because I'm a businessman and I want to handle things the right way. And my client was not a fan of litigation. It took some time for me to actually say, look, you might actually have to do this.
Right.
And really to his credit,
Sure.
He attempted to do everything that he possibly could to avoid where we are
goodness,
today.
110%.
He wasn't opposed to going to the litigation. He did it. He was very, very patient when in 2018 when they told him to go, take a long walk,
hike
on a short pier. He became very, very patient.
Right.
And he got a lot of work done, and we did a lot of work on this case.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing what time does to people.
Say more.
Because when I said in the beginning of the show that sometimes people don't recognize how much they're hurting somebody else. Okay.
Yes.
The more that I've seen this stuff come up, the more I'm realizing that it doesn't start off with in this case, they did work together, maybe from the very, very beginning, but as time went on, they worked together more and more and more.
Right.
Okay. And as money started to flow in, it changes the conversation with people. And then when there's this divide of the Atlantic Ocean, it changes the conversation with people. And I think that when people start going into one direction, off the beaten path, towards that idea of I can get away with it, because there's this conversation in business. It exists this conversation in civil business that, you know what, I will get caught one day, but it's going to cost me less to rip that person off.
Or that's what they think.
It's going to cost me less because I know that I could probably settle with them and I could do X, Y, and Z, and it's going to cost me less to rip them off in the short term, okay? In the long term, who knows? Mm-hmm. Who knows what kind of effect this is going to have on the company? Now, I say you, in every single one of my cases, I do exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I send out a demand letter. I send out a complaint. I make sure that
and it's a full complaint.
Yeah, it's a full complaint.
Right.
I make sure that everybody has the same opportunity to resolve the case beforehand, and that's with all the homework done, with everything that I can show. And then some people are still of the mind that, you know what, it's either denial or something else.
Well, and I would say too, we don't know what it is, and we can't even begin to imagine what it is. But from observation, it's an incredible amount of irresponsibility because, as we were talking about, there are so many different prices and people involved in these law things. So you've got your main, the people who are being sued, right? Companies, principals, et cetera, et cetera. But some of these things are really serious allegations. They could actually affect every single employee.
Right.
They could affect hundreds of people's jobs. They could affect an all.
It could close the company.
It could literally
close
a company down.
Not from the sense of, it closes because of reputation.
100%. And people are still willing to roll the dice. And again, if we're talking about nonsense claims that have absolutely no merit in the law, nobody has time for that.
I take my job so seriously because this is why I will do the investigations. I will take the time. I will spend the money. I will spend the money to make sure that the experts that I have looked at the case and said yes. And I share my work with other lawyers and I say, hey, what do you think about this before I go? I mean, I'm very.
You're not just taking your own word for it.
No, because that's
you vet.
Right, because otherwise
you vet yourself. You vet your own work.
Right.
Yeah.
And at the same time, okay. So I'm gonna share something very vulnerable right now. This is the first kind of this show that I've ever even heard of. Okay, this is my thought, my concept, my dream about this show was that lawyers can come on here and share vulnerably about their case and talk about their case. Okay, even having the conversation because because we don't know like as far as speaking about the case because you have this thing about I don't want to give anything away. Yeah. But the thing is.
That's a big part of the culture.
The package that I have here, everything that's in that case, and it's unnatural for a lawyer to be in this position to talk about his case. And I'm feeling this now because I have a lot more to say about these defendants. I have a lot more to say about the way that this thing went down. I'm extremely passionate about how my client in this particular circumstances was taken for, and I'm extremely passionate about prosecuting this case. But this show is about, taking the time to think about this and seeing how I really feel in this circumstance, because I really wanted to just let loose, and even then, my cautious side is coming out.
Yeah,
okay?
I can see that.
And I'm thinking to myself because I want to review the show after this goes down and see how this works and how this interplay works, because I want you for the audience to hear this. I want to get more into my work. I also want to get into the work of other lawyers when they do come here to share about their claims, to share about the people, to share about the hurt that's caused when people rip each other off.
Absolutely.
To share about the human experience that's actually going on. Because I got to tell you, my clients hurt inside. They might not tell me. There'll be some people who are tougher than others. But you know what? When you get taken for $10 or $6 million from somebody that you trusted, guess what? It hurts.
Right.
And that is one of the things that I don't know on the other side. Either they don't appreciate, they don't understand, or they don't know.
Well, I don't think the other side understands how incredibly reckless they behave. Because, one of the things that, as a non-lawyer, that I observe going on in all of these cases is the recklessness of the principals. The recklessness that they are playing around with not only their own reputation and livelihood, but the reputation and livelihood of their secretary, the person who relies on them for a paycheck, the person who is building a career and buying a mortgage because they're being employed. But it's an endless reverberation of recklessness.
Right. I have a guy in the case that we were supposed to talk about today, but we're playing with things. Okay, as far as the format and everything else.
And we've got time. We're going to get there.
Because I really want to highlight these cases, and eventually, I know next week. I spoke to people that want to call in about the case. They want to ask questions about it because they're going to say, me too. This happened to me too.
Yes.
I have a case against Insurance Office of America and this guy, John
Oh, my goodness. We are finding that it's a huge Me Too business. Me Too for business.
What we found out today about this particular case.
And it's so interesting because...
It's just like mind-blowing when
Again, you want to talk about reckless?
Yeah.
That is reckless.
Okay.
This man's behavior and his business practices over the last number of decades is nothing short of reckless.
Well, I'm going to say this. You're not going to believe what you're going to hear next week on the show.
I know.
I mean, we're going to have another guest. We're going to go through the claims. I want to be.
It's really shocking how business people do.
Okay, but this is happening,
and
everywhere.
They're big.
And I'm telling you right now, you have a voice. there is a way to get through this, okay, and to do it cost effectively. All right. Again, they might have been playing this game for a little bit with me right now. I mean, with all the stuff they have, but this stuff starts to sink in, okay, and when it does, it has its own consequences, and I'm talking about up here, because eventually up here travels down to here, and I think that's where it goes. I think that it's not the people though. It's not the people that are the hard-headed. It's their lawyers.
I think it's both. I think it's both. We've seen the attorneys. We've seen the attorneys' behavior as well.
I want to thank everybody
also reckless
for joining us on the second edition of The Verdict. Next week, we're going to be talking about some action-backed cases, have some other lawyers. I want to thank you for your time, and thank you for joining us.
everybody.
We will
have
see
a
you next week.
fantastic winning week.
Thank you for watching The Verdict. For more information about the show and your hosts, Jay Farrow and Janine Davis, please visit our website at www.theverdicttv.com or follow us on Facebook. The Verdict are live every Monday evening at 6 p.m. EST. See you next week.